So during media day for UFC 329, Max Holloway versus the Mystic Mac, Conor McGregor, UFC legend. Like I said, the Mystic Mac himself has confirmed something I have been hoping for I want to say months now, ever since Conor McGregor was announced to be returning to the UFC. He has announced that his main goal is to go for triple champ status in the UFC, to move to welterweight and challenge the current welterweight UFC champion, Khabib's protege, Islam Makhachev. I am through the roof about it. But, this makes me think about other things like what happens with lightweight now? Because the newly minted lightweight champion, Justin Gaethje, the highlight, who upset Ilia Topuria in a crazy fight that turned the MMA world on its head, said he was going to be present for the fight between Conor and Max this weekend in hopes of fighting the victor over the lightweight title. This is mainly, in my opinion, Justin Gaethje gunning for a red panty night because, as you know, any fighter that fights Conor McGregor gets a red panty night, aka a huge payout, whether they win or lose the fight. And Justin Gaethje wants that. Sadly, Conor was asked during media day as well another question, and this question was about Justin Gaethje calling him out, to which Conor then responded that Gaethje has to join the queue. He's got to step in line, And then Conor also made mention of what happened to Justin Gaethje during UFC 300 when he was pretty much given dished out a canvas nap by Max Holloway. So Conor doesn't really see Justin Gaethje as worthwhile competition. That's essentially what he said yesterday during UFC Media Day. I'm sure Justin's very heartbroken about it. I'm sure he is somewhat devastated. He won't obviously openly show it on some sort of social media post or video, but he's disappointed because, again, he's missing out on a big payout. But whether or not he was getting the big payout was largely up to Conor himself, and Conor has given him the answer. There are other moves to be made at lightweight. This isn't the end of the world for Justin Gaethje. If Gaethje wants further glory and to climb higher in the all-time rankings and, get more wins under his belt and more money, there's opportunities to still do it at lightweight. The lightweight division will continue no matter what. What matters now is finding a proper contender for Justin Gaethje. The best man, and he's been the best man for some time, is Arman Tsarukyan. Now, people are starting to say that Arman needs another fight. Patty Pimblett has recently said that, and I don't fully disagree. I think Arman has done enough already to warrant the title shot. I think, what he's been doing with streamers and maintaining in the MMA spotlight through doing that, that's worked well, and it's proven effective. A lot of people now know who Arman Tsarukyan is, who the Armenian Batman is, due to Arman and what he's been able to do with these streamers. So I think Arman has already, done enough to warrant a title shot. However, I don't believe many people would agree with me. And if they don't, then the next best thing is to face Arman off against some other lightweight fighter that's near a title shot. And one that comes to mind is Charles Oliveira. Now, people are starting to talk about a potential rematch between Arman and Charles for the near future that will set up a true contender to fight Justin Gaethje next. And, my issue with that is what happened between them in the first fight. Arman and Charles fought before. If you don't remember, they fought somewhat recently. It wasn't ages ago. And Arman pretty much, I won't say he fully dominated Charles, but he did rule Charles as ineffective, for the larger portion of the fight. Arman was in trouble near the beginning of the fight, where Charles had Arman, I believe it was a head and arm. It wasn't a head and arm. I think it was a anaconda that Charles had Arman Tsarukyan in. But Charles Oliveira had Arman Tsarukyan in a really dangerous chokehold, a really dangerous position, and Charles was about to get the submission, but Arman hung on. Some people say it was technically cheating because Arman, I think his shorts were loose, so that's how he was able to get out of the choke. Either way, Arman got out of the choke. After Arman got out of the choke, Arman, in my opinion, pretty much, what's the right word? He just snuffed out Charles Oliveira, in all facets of the fight game, in my opinion. Does the same happen in a rematch? I think it does, but again, it's MMA, so anything can happen. Charles could lock in the choke this time and submit Arman early, but I think what happened after Arman got out of the choke is what's the word? It's blatant enough, or it's concrete enough to give people a solid idea of what would happen in a rematch. And the idea, at least in my opinion, is that Armin does the same thing, you know, except this time he's not going to get caught in a choke early. And I love Charles. I'd like to see Charles have a lightweight title wrapped around his waist again. I just don't believe in his chances in a rematch against the Armenian Batman. Armin has looked more and more dangerous with every grappling match he's competed in. And I get it. Charles Oliveira is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners to ever step foot in the UFC's octagon. But I believe that, you know, Armin's just, you know, the way he's able to mix everything, not just jiu-jitsu, not just wrestling. He's got this grappling style that's all-encompassing. And it truly is some of the highest level grappling we've ever seen. And I can't wait for him to showcase it next time he's able to enter the octagon. I hope it's sooner rather than later. But Armin is in this kind of weird spot where we don't really know if he fully is a contender because, you know, ever since he pulled out of his fight against Islam Makhachev the night before it was supposed to happen, we can never really tell whether or not he's off Dana White's blacklist, you know? Armin could still pretty much be blacklisted by Dana White. Dana could still not trust Armin to this day to appear in a title shot, in a title fight, you know? It's largely up to Dana, but at this point, I also told you guys that I'm thinking it's becoming more and more out of Dana White's hands. Armin is becoming more and more of an identifiable icon, you know, not just in the fight game, but entertainment-wise. The way he's flashing off his wealth is also building a media presence. You know, he's gaining a lot of attention, not just from being a fighter anymore. You know, through being on all these streams, people are learning more and more about him. You know, and that's not affecting him in a negative way. It's only giving him more and more power. You know, not just as, again, a celebrity, but as a fighter. People are interested. People want to see him fight again. So, you know, like I briefly mentioned what Paddy Pimblett had to say about it. Paddy was also asked about Armin during Media Day, I believe, or it was some other interview. And Paddy, again, said what I said before, which is that he believes Armin needs to do more before he's granted a title shot. And I just disagree. I think, yes, Armin pulled out the night before he was supposed to fight Islam, and that was a very, very bad move on his part. It's been quite a long time since then, and Armin has stayed incredibly active. And I think he's grown. You know, I can't tell you how much he's grown because, again, he's proven to be a hothead who can really get into physical altercations like that. And it's not the best thing for you know, a fighter that the UFC is supposed to depend on. But I think Armin is capable of growth. I'm a fan. I like the way he fights. He's got the tools of an all-time UFC fighter. He gave Islam Makhachev one of his toughest fights ever in the UFC. And he was on a brilliant run towards a title shot before he got in the way of himself the night before he was supposed to fight Khabib's protege, Islam Makhachev. Will he do the same if he was granted another title shot? I doubt it. I think Armin will do everything in his power to not screw up this time. To be a grown man, a grown adult, a professional fighter, and show up. You know, I think that was a crazy, one-time, out-of-this-world occurrence where some part of his body just shut down, maybe due to an improper fight camp or some other, you know, external issue. But the next time Arman Tsarukyan is granted a title shot, I believe he will be fully ready for it. He will appear and he will perform amazingly well. So, in the grand scheme of things, for the bottom line of this video, should Armin and Charles face off and fight over a certified title shot? No. In my opinion, no. Because the fight just isn't interesting enough. We saw what happened, and what happened in the first fight doesn't really warrant a second fight, in my opinion, unless it was absolutely necessary. Unless Justin Gaethje disappeared off the face of the earth and the lightweight title was magically vacant, you know, then maybe, because we'd obviously have to have a fight over it. We can't just grant it to somebody, you know. So then if Charles and Armin are the only two top lightweights left in the world in the UFC, then yeah, face them off. But I think there's other things to do right now in the upper echelon of the UFC than have Armin do another fight that, you know, allows him to prove what he's already proven, which is that he is a championship. He's a championship quality UFC fighter. He's a championship caliber fighter. You know, that's what he's proven by how active he's being, by the people he's facing in the RAF. And I get it, the RAF's not the UFC, it's not MMA, so it shouldn't really count that much. But again, grappling is a big aspect of MMA. It's becoming more and more important to become a well-rounded grappler or a good grappler to even get a chance at a UFC title. You know, so for Armin to get rid of all these guys in the RAF, I think it does mean something. I think it does mean something. And then again, not so long ago, Armin did fight Charles. And in that fight, yes, Armin was stuck in a bad position near the beginning of the match. But after, when he was able to get out, he proved, in my opinion, he's maybe a level above Charles Oliveira. Okay? That's what he kind of showed to me after the bad chokehold he was put in. But neither here nor there. You know, the UFC will only do what the UFC wants to do. Dana White will do what he wants to do. Maybe Armin is still on Dana White's blacklist. Maybe he's not. Hopefully, Armin should get the next title shot. I think he should. I think we should have Armin and Gaethje face off. It'll be a good fight. Sure, Gaethje is pretty much, it would pretty much be a mismatch for Gaethje. Armin would definitely out-grapple Gaethje and probably get him in a bad position early to where he'll probably submit Gaethje early. But Gaethje, you know, has proven against Ilya that he stands a chance against anybody. You know, the way he's able to put people in these crazy brawls and how much power he carries in his hands. Gaethje really can bring a puncher's chance to any fight he's in, especially a fight against Arman Tsarukyan, you know. But again, whatever happened will happen. Time will tell. Let me know what you think.